So it's now time to move to the panel session. So joining Alison and James today on the panel, a warm welcome to Susie Harwood, Executive Director of Freight with Transport for New South Wales. So Susie will share some information about some of the work that Transport has been progressing in terms of improving a seamless and secure movement of goods. Welcome also to Vicky Fisher, Assistant Secretary Biosecurity with the Federal Department of Agriculture, Water and Environment. We recognise how important biosecurity measures are when importing and exporting goods and are delighted to have both Vicky and Susie joining us today. So please type any questions that you have for our panellists in the audience console, and we've got plenty of time, about 20 minutes for a conversation now. So to kick things off, we'll start with Susie. So Susie, clearly there is a need for a digital connection to optimise product movement. How do you see new digital cargo and trade community systems being a game changer in the 2020s? And how might they accelerate speed to market to anywhere in the world?
Thanks, Natalie. I guess that I see a digitisation of the supply chain or a digital connection as being something that is really fundamental to realising the ambition for the 36-hour paddock to plate vision. And Alison also spoke about the seamless cargo journey. And while we have a lot of, hard infrastructure that needs to go around that, having very strong digital connections and the right technology to support a digital supply chain will be essential in making sure that we squeeze every bit of efficiency out of the supply chain. And that's important from a value proposition perspective for customers, both domestic and internationally, as well as, from an economic perspective and making sure that we reduce costs wherever possible throughout the supply chain. So some of the benefits through improved digital connectivity will go to really reducing the extent of administration that's required. If we can cut down on some of the manual handling, but also a lot of the duplication that occurs at the moment in the relay of information through the supply chain, there's benefits there really simply in terms of a reduction in time and also the costs of administration. But we also anticipate, and industry is telling us that they also anticipate there'll be network improvements in the efficiency of the movement of goods as a result of having improved visibility of where goods are at in the course of their journey within the supply chain, and that will assist with operational planning and also has the potential to assist with strategic planning, so helping business make better decisions about how to move goods now and in the future, and also potentially helping government make better decisions about where and how to invest, from a transport perspective in road and rail infrastructure in particular, and thinking about how that connects in really effectively with the Western Parkland City and also with the freight facilities that will be developed in the area and of course the airport, but also more broadly, how does that whole of network approach get optimised? And having digitisation will give us a better understanding of what is occurring and also what might be needed on the network. The qualifier, of course, being that government and industry really need to work hand in hand on how we navigate these new technologies, how we navigate willingness to share data and the provision of data, and make sure that we're respecting, everybody's willingness to make that information available and doing it in a way that has genuine mutual benefit for industry, for small, medium and large business, and also for government, so that we can better support industry and also our customers across the state. I think in terms of your question about what are the big game changers, the big game changers for me are that reducing the costs of moving goods because there's better tactical, operational as well as strategic planning, and also the potential for both industry and government to make better investment decisions to continue to improve enhancements in productivity.
Thanks, Susie. Some really interesting thoughts there, and really getting to the main point around reducing costs and making our great city a highly desirable place to trade with. So it's really, you've opened up a great conversation there about layering up the advantages that can be added to the physical build of the airport that's unfolding before our very eyes. I think it's a good time to bring Vicky into the conversation. Similar kind of a theme, really. So, Vicky, can you tell us about the role of the Commonwealth, the role the Commonwealth Government plays in biosecurity, and how this may be enhanced with the development of a highly efficient air freight interface?
Thank you very much, and fully agree with Susie. We need to reduce costs, but not only that, we need to provide better opportunities to sell our premium product into premium markets at no time at all. Anyway, so coming back to the biosecurity question, my current role is pathway policy in the biosecurity ops division, looking after the pathways of travellers, mail and imported food. The pathways, if you like, are those opportunities for exotic pests and diseases to come in to the country. So cargo and conveyances also are pretty significant pathways. And our job is about determining the best ways and implementing the best ways of keeping exotic pests and diseases out. And that's extremely important for the Australian community. None of us want brown marmorated stink bugs in the air conditioning. It's super important for environment. We don't want any more fire ants in the ground, kids' playgrounds and so on. We certainly don't want productivity issues. Something like African swine fever coming into our country would absolutely decimate the pig population. You know, it's a disease that kills over 80% of the animals that get infected, and it basically is the Ebola of the pig world, where they bleed to death. It's a revolting disease, and we definitely don't want it in the country. Right through to trade, the impacts of trade, and something like Capra beetle, which I hope most of you have heard about, would be a devastating bug to have in the country. You know, it devastates the storage of grain, but if I could say even more importantly, it would devastate our trade. Nobody else would want to trade with us if we've got Capra. It makes it very difficult to send product out of the country. Anyway, so coming back to trade, biosecurity from a Commonwealth perspective, and my current role is about keeping the exotic pests and diseases out of the country, but it's also two-way, if you like. Australia has responsibilities to all of our trading partners, and we work very hard to develop our trade relations, and they do underpin the export of our produce, and be it our livestock or our fruit and veg or our processed product. It relies on government to government understanding of requirements, and how is it that Australia is making sure we're not sending any fruit fly overseas with our tomatoes or whatever it is that we are sending. How are we meeting their requirements? So from an export perspective, which I think is absolutely essential here, it is two-way trade through the airport, and making sure that we're not creating any bottlenecks at this facility. We do need to work hand in glove, like I think Susie mentioned, with our industry partners, with the freight and logistics guys. We all need to work together to determine the most efficient ways to assure ourselves and our customers and our clients overseas that we are providing the best premium product without any pests and diseases, and our premium product over and above meets their requirements. So for me, how the Commonwealth would love to see this work, you know, it's such a beautiful opportunity for us to make an efficient process, to have a look at the assurance mechanisms that are already in place in every single business out there. We all have ways to prove to our customers that we're giving them the right product, and maybe the Commonwealth can work with you. If you can assure your customers that the product is premium, well, that's generally more than the requirements of the importing country. If we can tap into your assurance program, maybe we don't need to stop you and count 600 oranges and check that they don't have any scale on them. whatever the case is, we do believe, and we hear from industry quite regularly too, we do believe that there are some wonderful opportunities to improve the regulation and get the regulator out of your face. And this Western Sydney Airport is definitely a great opportunity for us to work together and get us out there.
Thanks, Vicky. Some great themes coming out there, and I think your last point really about almost, recognising that this is a greenfield situation where we have the privilege of being able to design something that works for everyone involved in the complexity of the supply chain. So we've heard about reducing costs, getting time right, the pertinent points about safety, environment, and some really of the pragmatics of trade. Given that countries have traded and done this for centuries and centuries and centuries, so that real inherent a piece of work that I think is within our DNA around trade relations. So thanks very much for that. And we've had a couple of questions come in from the audience that I'd like to actually bring in now. And in fact, Vicky, one of them I think is probably best for you to continue on. And the question being, are there going to be opportunities for an integrated customs and bonding facility? And that might be also a question for Alison to consider and deliberate on. So over to you, perhaps, Vicky, in the first instance.
Thank you very much. I certainly can't talk on behalf of Australian Border Force or Home Affairs, but we are working very closely with them, and I know that they are very excited about this facility too. We're working closely with them on this particular project, and I do believe that we do have many opportunities ahead of us to integrate better. We're looking to partner and co-design, not just individually, our agency with industry and our agency with logistics, but certainly right across the Commonwealth, and obviously Commonwealth interstate in working with the state government as well. And the incorporation of this concept has certainly been part of the design. So yes, short answer.
Terrific. And I might just bring in Alison. You might want to reflect on that question from the audience, but also to wrap in another point of conversation. It's really, I think we can't ignore COVID and how it's changed almost everything in the freight and logistics industry, no doubt. And from your extensive experience in the industry, what would you narrow down as being the advantages of having the greenfield opportunity to design in learnings from the last 2 years? So over to you, Alison. Unfortunately, I can't quite hear Alison at the very minute, but I might actually just draw in James to respond to his own reflections as someone who's had extensive industry in the area, and also someone who's a great observer of everything in this industry. So James, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Natalie. Yeah, look, I think there's real opportunities for a number of different world-leading innovations to be brought into this greenfield site. And I draw the person who presented the question to the RFI process, because I think this is the opportunity that we have in front of us to really seek those sorts of insights and those sorts of ideas to take into consideration to ensure that we do build a world-class supply chain in the Western Parkland City for the future generations. And I'd just like to draw on a small bit of insight. 100 years ago, KSA was literally a greenfield site. Today, it handles more than 45% of Australia's air freight volumes. It roughly equates to a bit over 80,000 tonnes moving through the belly of passenger aircraft. In 5 years' time, Western Sydney will literally have almost 200,000 tonnes of cargo capacity. This is the opportunity we have right now in front of us to get this thing right.
Thanks very much, James. And I think we've got Alison back. So, Alison, any reflections from you to add?
Thank you so much, Natalie, and apologies for the tech disrupt. Look, I think, you know, in summary, from our perspective at Western Sydney International, thinking about the cargo precinct, we do, as you say, have the opportunity to use this as a launch to learn, a pilot site where we actually don't have any of the legacy issues to chart through. And it gives us an incredibly clear landscape to be able to make sure that we can co-create best use of available technologies, and also making sure that we're working really closely with both Commonwealth and New South Wales government departments to make this the best proposition it can be. And I think one of the things we're hearing from our customers as we go through our market soundings and market engagements is that they're really excited about the opportunity to have the right kind of support from a logistics perspective happening in Western Sydney. It's a tremendous opportunity for us. And we also get to steal the best from around the world. And finally, we have no pain points to engineer out because there are no legacy issues. It is about creating the best opportunity.
Thanks very much, Alison. And we have a couple more questions from the audience. So thanks very much to the audience for the great engagement and putting these questions out there. So there's a question about, and this is one I think that all of the panel might be able to reflect on, and that is what do you collectively see as the major export opportunities for New South Wales agribusiness to take advantage of in the concept presented? So I guess you each see industry and what's going out there in the world from a different perspective, but if you were to pass a comment on the major export opportunities, very curious to hear from you. Maybe we'll start perhaps with James first, and then we'll work from there.
Sure, thank you, Natalie. So through the research we've undertaken and the industry engagement, we've identified 3 target industries, be it fresh food, pharmaceutical and live animals. And we believe that these are the 3 industries that represent the greatest export opportunities for New South Wales. Now, that's not to say necessarily that there won't be other export opportunities for other industries. We've just identified these as being those industries that have the highest amount of growth potential that are currently experiencing the constraints through the current operations that are available to them.
I think I guess from my perspective, rather than thinking about the types of products that might have opportunity or advantage, it's the ability to really come back to my earlier comments, really drive down the cost of freight as a component of export. And I think that also helps add to, you know, what Vicky was discussing about having a premium product. If you can have a premium product that you can get out of the country in an affordable way, it really enhances then the offering. And I guess it probably, I would expect, although there'll be more experts on this than me, opens up markets that may not currently be available to some of our producers. So I'll be very focused on what are the opportunities for ready access to export and export markets in a cost-efficient way. And that's a combination of having really well-designed land uses and developments on land, really well-designed transport networks, but also having the systems and the data that supports us in making full use and sort of optimum use of those networks and those land uses.
Thanks. And very, very quickly, I fully agree with the rest of the panel. I think I also don't really want to comment on particular markets or particular products, but really that optimization of our supply chain would be, for mine, you know, get regulators out of the way and get the process as streamlined as possible. I think we've got it.
And I think finally, from my perspective, and thinking about a mantra we use quite often at Western Sydney International Airport, unlimited. The opportunities are unlimited. And I think that's the real beauty of what we're here talking about today.
Wonderful. That is a word that we use so often as well, Ali, over at the authority. And we did have one question about how the authority and the airport would work together. And I think that it's exactly as you've seen today, in very close partnership and working very closely to maximise and unearth the unlimited opportunities that are presented in this great city, the Parkland City. And on that note, I'd like to bring the panel session to a close, and indeed the whole session to a close, with my very warm thanks to Susie, to Vicky, to Ali, to James, and to Mick Daly behind the scenes, and everyone who has attended this session today. So an incredible conversation, and couldn't be more delighted to pick this up in the new year after the RFI is closed. So thank you so much, and we look forward to hearing from you, listening, and putting out what we hear for others to hear and benefit from. So thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.